Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to highlight a 3-game series that I played last Sunday in the finals of the Serpentine Cup. Now this was not the actual finals, it was the lead up to the finals, as I lost my first game, my first best of 1 against Tungdil, which meant I went into the lower bracket, where I managed to beat Cast in my first best of 3, and then I had to go through Flower Fairy next to have a chance at meeting Tungdil again in the finals and take home the Serpentine Cup. Now, a little bit about Flower Fairy, in case you don't know, he was a finalist in Season 1 of Mag 1. He won Season 2 of Mag 1, and he's currently the highest rated player on the server at 2.6k MMR. So, yeah, a little bit scary. I have to beat him twice because it is a best of 3, so it can't just be a fluke if I want to have any chance at all at facing Tungdil next. And yeah, I was quite nervous about this because obviously my record against him is not in my favor, but I was gonna give it my all. I decided to go for a spider pack here, supply specialist. My opponent is a typhoon specialist, and he starts out with Arclights, Stormcallers, and purchases 2 crawlers. Now I decided, well, I could go for a Phoenix here on round 1 and kind of secure at least a round win and grab as much experience as I can, because round 1 into Stormcaller with spiders tends to not be favorable for the spider player. Later on it can be fine once you get some levels, but getting the levels is often the issue. So here I decided to go for some Phoenixes. That'll at least secure the first round no matter what happens. I do skip a deployment of course, but I think that's okay as long as I manage to not skip too many more. Looks like we do get some easy locks. Crawlers here from the opponent have split up, however, so my tower will fall at some point, but that doesn't matter since he didn't buy any anti-air. I will be winning the round by default. Sadly, though, our tower falls first, and, well, I really would have liked it if my spiders could have gotten some experience there, but it's not meant to be. We don't grab the tower. Phoenixes, though, will grab it, and they will level up here immediately. That can be a really good sign, as early leveled Phoenixes sometimes will run the show. However, Improved Wasp shows up here on round 2, and if you know me, I can't say no to that card showing up this early. I am kind of known for playing Worm Wasp in high MMR, and yeah, this card enables my setup like no other. So I just had to pick it, right? I was streaming these games as well, and I was like, well, look, in a straight one-on-one against this guy, if I tried to play like the solid comps, I probably wouldn't stand a chance. But I think that there are some strats that I know how to play that many people haven't faced a lot. So I might be able to catch him off guard that way. And so here I do what you wouldn't expect at all, right? I sell out of a spider and I put down an improved wasp because it's so expensive. And then I bought another fang here on the right side, trying to pressure the tower. I don't use the level up. I basically missed another deployment there by selling out of the spider. And so I'm down 2 deployments, but I'm into improved wasp right away. And you might think this is completely crazy, but having played this comp, well, more than anyone really at this MMR level, there is a pattern that goes into playing this comp, which is try and get the wasp out as early as possible. Oftentimes it will carry because, well, improved wasp is scarily powerful. 60% bonus attack, 60% bonus HP, and 20 bonus range. Really hits quite hard. And if your opponent doesn't know what to do, and often they will buy Mustangs, right, which is the logical pick against wasp the turn after, if you can stay ahead of them and kind of out-tempo them, you'll be completely fine. And what I mean by that is that I tried to get as many wasps on the board as possible. Next round, I'm expecting him to buy Mustangs without techs, and I will already try to get into wasps here with range. Turn after, he will likely grab range on the Mustangs as well, but by that point, I'll have double techs, which are going to be range and high explosive, which should have me like, oh, keeping the edge in this fight as I try to scale up my comp and get towards the inevitable Sandworm. And that is exactly what happens here, right? Opponent grabs double Mustang and picks up a shield airdrop there as well. He does have a nice item, as he picked up an improved firepower control system the round prior. But we'll have to see how this goes, because looking at this, well, I've already managed to pick up a level on the wasps. I managed to grab range as well, so I've got that advantage going for me, and I've still got some money left to spend. And so here what I'm going to be doing is buy another wasp, and then I can still sell something I would like. Although here I'm debating, should I really sell? What am I going to do with it, right? Okay, I do sell a phoenix there. I unlock a crawler. And I think we might be mass recruiting here to just get double chaff on the board. We do. Crawlers will help a lot against things like the Mustangs. And it should allow me some more distraction. I'm also trying to kind of regain some of the lost deployments because I've already lost 3 at this point. Selling out of a spider, selling out of a phoenix, only buying 1 unit on round 1. So yeah. Also keeping the spider because I saw that it was doing pretty well. And from how this is going, I'm not too dissatisfied with it. It's top on damage, clearing fangs, now clearing crawlers, getting rid of some of those Mustangs that have the scary item, and meanwhile right side, it's a complete wash. If you think Mustang is good into Wasp, you have to reconsider when it comes to improved Wasp. Of course, if he manages to get levels and get double tech like range AA, he'll be completely fine. But until then, this is a tough fight. These Wasps are tanky, he doesn't have range, I have the range advantage. And yeah, the Wasps pack a punch. The shield goes down, and this is as good as a round as I could have hoped for, as my Wasps here level up yet again. Well, yet again. The level 1s level up instantly, the level 2s are 2/3 of the way to level 3. Now, round number 4, the Typhoon shows up for my opponent, and we also get some unit reinforcements. Now, Phantom Ray here, you could say, is a potential pick with the armor, but I was debating whether or not it'd be that useful. My opponent grabs multiple Mustangs, immediately goes for the aerial specialization instead of the range. And I thought to myself, my idea is just to play Wasps with Worms. If these weren't improved Wasp, maybe I'd consider Phantom, but I don't want to get bogged down investing into a unit that really is just kind of a temporary cheese, right? Because it may stall the opponent, but at the same time, I know that if I just make sure that my Wasps have everything they need, have the levels, have the techs, I don't really need to distract the opponent's forces, and I can just try to work towards the Sandstorm on the Sandworms. And so here I'll pick up the thing that's worth the most, which is the Scorpion drop, and I immediately sell out of one of them. On top of that, I was kind of expecting my opponent to go for the Scorpions as well, and so I had at least a little bit of extra DPS, also against that Typhoon that he picked up. Lucky for me, it seems like we even gambled the correct side, and now I'm able to get into 2 more Wasps and grab the high explosive ammo on top of things. The reason I'm running high explosive ammo is because Wasp is a DPS unit, right? At heart. It doesn't have any splash normally. But if you give it splash and, you know, with the improved Wasp bonus attack, you don't really give up too much, but you gain a crucial advantage, which is that you don't need to sweat your chaff clear situation. Because investing into carry Wasp will often be quite expensive. You need the levels, you need the deployments. You'll often need something like a Sandworm as well if your opponent goes into Mustang to kind of equalize the range difference. And so you don't really have much money left to get into what normally would be a Wraith. So I've preferred going for this, but only if I get the improved Wasp card, mind you. Again here, a minor win. But the important bit is that I'm scaling the Wasps. I am running Elite Marksman on this bar as well. And so as long as I can get to kind of the mid and late game, without having lost too many hit points, I'll be able to get into Elite and start scaling like you wouldn't believe. Now, round number 5, mass-produced Fortress there was available. Opponent didn't go for it. The scariest thing, in my opinion, to deal with is often going to be Fortresses. Although with the lack of hit points, maybe they would have died too soon. Level 2 Wasp, improved Wasp that is, can already tank a missile from the barrage, as they sit at 995 hit points. Whereas the anti-air barrage missiles deal 900. Now I am selling out of my spider there. It didn't really do too much, and I was planning to sell it anyway. And at this point, I'm setting up a round yet again. Because what I'm waiting for is the next set of unit drops. I'm looking for a Sandworm specifically, but if I don't get it, I'm just going to sell and buy them myself. So yeah, sell out of the spider and just buy more Wasps at this point, right? Opponent does buy more Mustangs now and has kind of gotten to the point where he needs to be, with both range and AA available on the bar. And so I'm not too sure we'll be able to win this, but I was willing to just gamble, basically. I know that next turn or round 7 we're going to get some drops, and I'm willing to kind of wait at least until next turn, round 6, to see if maybe, just maybe, we get a drop that would help us, yeah, get into our actual comp faster, rather than having to buy the sandworm myself. Left side did lose. We managed to take down the tower. Yeah, those level 3 wasps, even though they got hit here and there, they're quite difficult to take down, and looks like we won't be winning the round, but it's not a massive loss either, and I hadn't taken any damage just yet on round 5, and I'm pretty happy about my odds here. More levels picked up, exactly what we need in round 6. I mean, hey, this is what you wait for. You get that sandworm. I don't even have to think about it. Insta-pick. And this is why you will see a lot of Heimdall players have these type of setup rounds. You wait until the drop shows up just to make sure that, well, there isn't anything in there that you wanted anyway, right? And if there is something in there, you'll get way more efficiency out of your resources than if you had to, well, buy the unit yourself. And at this point, I already have the setup, right? I have my 6 wasps. Maybe I could use like 2 more if I really want to in the ultra late game, but at this point, it's all going to be about the sandstorm on the sandworm, which is exactly what I pick up. We grab the one from the drop, and then we add 2 more level 1s and pick up Sandstorm. Opponent goes for the Sabertooth there. Very, very tanky and a good unit against the Sandworm. But in this comp, I don't really need my Sandworms to carry that much. Especially when I have improved Wasp. The carry is the Wasp. The only thing I need is for this to keep applying a Sandstorm so that the enemy Mustangs don't have a range advantage, right? Because right now with the temp range, those Mustangs are sitting at 150. Make that 180 with the aerial specialization. And my Wasp, even though I'm clicking temp range every turn from now on, have 125, right, at level 3. I can boost that a bit, of course, once I get into Elite Marksman, but the range difference is still going to be very hard to overcome, which is why we run Sandstorm. Right side struggling, naturally, as that Sandworm immediately died to the level 5 Sabertooth. But left side is not looking too bad, and meanwhile, I mean, look at this, right? Those level 1, level 2 Mustangs, just really not quite able to take down these Wasps efficiently, and because of the HE, we're fighting back. Left side managing to make some waves, and now the left side Wasps should also be able to level up a little bit. Opponent did go for 2-level towers, so it's going to be slightly more difficult for me to take these down. Looks like the worm won't quite be able to grab the debuff there, and so I will be losing, but only marginally. And again, we kind of got to a point where we managed to set up the board that we wanted. Laser sight there shows up. Both of us, of course, pick it up. And I make sure to give it to my highest level Wasps on the right side. And it's now time to go for the elite on our Wasps. And here I had 2 things I could do, right? Either I could buy more Sandworms, or I could go for the Elite. I decided to get the Elite out of the way. Now my setup is complete. I won't even need AA, because my Wasps are so high level, and they're improved, that any air units really wouldn't do anything to them. But at 3.1k hit points, I wasn't sweating too much. There's no way I'm going to die instantly. And it's just nice to get these techs out of the way. Just make sure you've got the setup, and now your Wasps can keep leveling, and then you can basically start working on, well, the final piece of the puzzle, which is going to be more Sandworms, right? I could use like at least maybe 1 or 2 more on the front lines, and then after that, I'll probably start just building more waves, because that way, even if my front Sandworm dies, a second one will arrive and apply a new Sandstorm, and maybe even a third or a fourth, you know, depending on how long the game goes. Scorpion here with the acid attack. This is something I was a little bit scared of, because it can be one of the best counters to Sandworm, as it is impossible to photon coating a Sandworm, apart from the item, but anything else won't apply because the Sandworm will burrow before the effect takes place. Left side now, though, winning. Right side getting close to winning as well. I mean, there's not that many Mustangs left. Maybe, just maybe, we can win this. And as the debuff goes down, we actually managed to win a round that, again, was a bit of a setup. And now my Wasps are leveling even more. Sandworm there manages to pick up a level 2. There's an amplifying core if you want to go for that. I'm not going to say no. I've got a level 2 Sandworm, so that should be an easy place to put it. Actually, I say that. Never mind the Sandworm. It probably would be best onto one of these Wasps. And this is where I start building this second wave. Yeah, the Amp Core does go on top of the Wasps. Again, this isn't Worm carry. This is Wasp carry. The only thing I want out of my Sandworms is to get in, make sure there's a Sandstorm, and then I don't care if they die, right? Of course, if they can apply it multiple times, all the better, but I don't need them to deal damage. And so we pick up 3 more Sandworms here. Now we're starting to loan as well. Temp range, every single turn mandatory. And you can see I have this first wave that will apply a Sandstorm, and then hopefully the second wave of Worms arrives a bit later, just to make sure that these Mustangs don't have the range advantage. If you don't know what Sandstorm does, it creates a Sandstorm with a radius of 120 meters for 5 seconds, and units within the Sandstorm will lose range by 50%. This is only ground units, by the way, which is why it works so well with Wasps, because air units are unaffected. And then the bonus is that they also, all of the units inside, the ground units, will take reduced damage from ranged attacks. Now, keep in mind this also applies to the enemy units, right? So the enemy Scorpions here are 30% tankier while they are inside of the Sandstorm. But that's not too much of a problem because improved Wasp with this setup just deals way too much damage for that to matter. Now, opponent here did manage to get rid of our Worms, it seems. Oh, actually, right side still has one. And also is putting down a lot of shields. I was wondering whether or not they were afraid of me purchasing oil or something. But this is getting quite expensive there. 2 shields going down. They're loaning as well. It looks like the Wasps are taking over. Worm survives as well. And that will put our opponent down to 1,200 hit points. Round number 9. More free units. I mean, I'm not really looking for anything here. My setup is basically complete. So I'll probably just pick up the Raiden and sell. I could go for a Wraith. There's no real point doing so. I could go for Rhino too, but there's no point in trying to invest into different units here, right? You're getting way more value out of either buying more Sandworms or even buying more Wasps than you're ever going to get trying to invest in a different unit. And so we're simply going to be buying more Sandworms. Another 3 there picked up. A third wave in the making. We've got wave 1, we've got wave 2, and now a third wave of Sandworms is on the way just to make sure that everything will be covered in sand. I also pick up both the attack enhancement and the defense enhancement because I had so much money left that I really didn't know what to do with it. And yeah, you'll see I haven't even leveled this Sandworm. I think it's had the level for the last 2 turns, but there's no need for it. The most important thing is grabbing the levels on these Wasps, now level 4. 145 range here, 165 thanks to the laser sight. And now the opponent goes for the loose formation. This is a pretty smart thing to do. The Wasps will only have 7 meters of splash, which is the same as an arc light, and as we all know, arc lights are not great at dealing with loose formation. Although Wasps are, well, there's way more of them in the pack, right? There's 12 of them in the pack. And so they will still, like, not bother too much about the loose formation crawlers. But it seems like it has worked out somewhat. And as all of my Worms are now dead, the level 3 Pack of Mustang is moving in. Starting to kill all of my Wasps. But look at these HE shots. Killing the Mustangs instantly, and sometimes even managing to kill 2. Scorpion will grab the tower, but as all of the Mustangs have been dealt with, that's going to be another round, if only a marginal one, going my way. Now, you might think, oh, the damage here is starting to slow down, but I really wasn't sweating this because I've played this so many times. I know that it is pretty much Exodia from here on out. Like, it's near impossible for my opponent to come up with anything here. Like, there isn't anything you can do, really, other than somehow trying to make the sandworms not unburrow anywhere near your tower, right? If you can keep the Mustangs out of the sandstorm, maybe you can be fine. But it's really hard to do when I have, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sandworms, and I'm pretty sure more are going to be on the way. I'm also making sure that I missile these 2 front crawlers, because I don't want my sandworms to unburrow near the line. I want them to unburrow somewhere near his tower. And so, yep, 2 more sandworms picked up. Of course, lone and temp range. And now we have a 4th wave of worms on the way. I mean, I think this is a setup I maybe could have only dreamed of when I came up with this comp. But yeah, this is basically exactly what you want. Get the improved wasp early, build your wasp board, and then get into sandworm. I got fortunate enough that the game gave me the drop, but yeah. This is what late game worm wasp looks like, and I legitimately don't think there's anything my opponent can do, but we'll have a look at how this round is going to go. Opponent here added some Mustangs even further up front, maybe trying to snipe some of the wasps, but yeah, level 5 with the laser sight, 170 range. And that's not going to be so easy to lock onto. Completely different story if they weren't improved, but, well, that card enables this comp like no other. And we've still got sandworms moving in. You can see how many sandstorms we're creating. Left side, it does seem like all of the worms died, but there's just too many wasps left alive, so we'll take care of the remaining Mustangs. Right side prevails. Even one level 1 sandworm lives, and that'll be all she wrote for game 1. So I was very happy with this, right? I get 1 game win in this best of 3, and that means I at least have a bit of a net, right, to fall back on. I only need to win 1 more game, and when I say only, that is still quite the task. I think I got quite fortunate this game, being gifted the improved wasp card so early, and, well, me knowing how this comp works, going for the correct investments, not being too afraid to give up some early deployments, because I know that if I can get to triple tech, if I can get the levels early, that'll be to my advantage. And the important thing here really is to not stray from the idea, right? The idea being the wasps are going to carry. You have to trust that improved wasp will do what it needs to do if you have the correct setup, like I do with the range, the HE, and the elite. So no need to get into, for instance, the phantom drop, right? I just sold out of it because it allowed me to get more wasps. It allowed me to pick up the levels. It allowed me to get techs before he did on his Mustang so that I could win rounds and again kind of feed into this scaling aspect. And then, of course, waiting for the worm drop, which was fortunate, but it's the right thing to do, right? It's better to wait if you can and see if you get a worm drop than to just buy it up front. Of course, if you absolutely need it because you're on the back foot, then you have no choice. But if you're in a comfortable spot, it's better to just set up, right? Just buy more wasps because they're going to be useful anyway, and then see if the game is going to give you what you need. Anyway, this was only game 1. I'm not out of it yet. Let's get to game 2. All right, so here we are, game number 2, and I'm sure Flower Fairy will be out for revenge and won't be going down so easily. Now, looking at my packs, I probably should be playing some Steel Ball aggro here. This pack is pretty good. But I know that Flower Fairy really likes to pick Sledgehammer packs, and so I was a little bit scared, and I end up going for the Aerial Specialist instead here with the Crawlers and the Stormcallers. My idea was to go for something like Vulcan Phoenix, because I do run certain techs that might allow me to get an edge, right? I know that my opponent, I think, doesn't run things like Double Shot on his marksman, so Phoenixes with shield could be quite useful, and I might be able to win the game that way. Now, opponent does start with Sledgehammers and is a Missile Specialist. I really wasn't too happy about this. I think this is a pretty poor matchup, as, well, opponent will have a lot of things to hit, and so already I was also thinking, well, I wanted to grab some early Phoenixes, but if my opponent has a lot of missiles available, that might be tricky to pull off. And so I was kind of waiting to see what was going to happen in these first rounds. I have double crawler or triple crawler start here, opting to go for 2 arc lights because my opponent does have triple crawler. There's also an argument to be made here to go for double fang and just kind of wait, especially if you want to get into Vulcan. And we'll have to see. The sledgehammers for my opponent might get a first round. I think usually they're quite strong into Stormcallers early on. Arclight's doing a decent job of clearing so far, but they'll also get locked by the enemy sledgehammers and the Arclight. Stormcallers now starting to hit the arcs, getting rid of those. The sledgehammers are still full HP. A good volley on the left side, right side arc will be going down. And now the question is, do we have the reloads to be able to deal with this? Right side doesn't seem to be the case. Left side, we've managed to get rid of most sledgehammers, but oh, that volley not quite taking down the sledge pack. And with only 1 Stormcaller left and 5 sledges on the right side, I don't think we'll be coming out victorious on round 1. And looking at the experience, hold on a second. Towers are worth 200 experience. And I think the enemy sledgehammers here might just be leveling on round 1, which would be a disaster for me. We do manage to take down some more sledgehammers, but in the end, my Stormcaller will fall. And yeah, we saw that Golden Flash sledgehammer level right away. This is getting a little bit scary. Round number 2, haste module shows up. Opponent does go for that. It's a bit too early, I think, to grab the other cards there, like Elite Mustang. And Subsidized Steel Ball is, well, can be a good card, but if you're starting out in Standard, I think it's a little bit crazy to go for. Now, my plan was to go into Phoenix, of course, but I was a little bit worried about the Sledge Pack. I didn't really know how to address it. I do go for Phoenix after all, because at least my opponent shouldn't, well, be expecting the Phoenixes, or at least he wouldn't know where they would show up. I did pick up the haste mod because my unlock on Phoenix is for free. And yeah, 1 Stormcaller here will go down. I think I need Phoenixes because my opponent grabs that sledgehammer level and I don't know how else I would get any damage down. Other than committing to like a Scorpion early, but that didn't really seem like a good idea to me. I don't run Siege mode and I think Scorpion in Standard versus the Marksman is just not a good matchup. You will not be winning that, especially against this guy who knows Marksman comps inside out. And so yeah, the Phoenixes will manage to at least get rid of that sledgehammer pack, but it took an awful long time. Now we're moving into the tower. Maybe we can get a debuff. A level up here would mean the world. But as the marksman is moving in and my left tower goes down, I'm not too sure we'll be able to grab that. He got some good experience, but yeah, marksman will take that Phoenix and even level up himself. As we have a couple crawlers on the tower. And won't even be able to grab the debuff in the end. So another round lost here. And I'm really starting to worry. Another sledgehammer level, a marksman level, and now we get triple fang as a drop. And so here I'm already thinking, okay, I don't really know how on earth I win this. Melting Point in Standard is not going to win against this type of marksman setup. It's simply losing. I'm already losing the early game into the level sledgehammers. My Phoenixes are probably going to get missile striked, and I don't want to put down early shields because if I lose them, things will go from bad to worse. So how am I going to get out of this? Because I don't have any good options, right? I can't play Scorpion in Standard. That's losing. There's just no good late game comps. And what I want to play, which is Phoenix Vulcan, I mean, I'm going to need to somehow, yeah, get some levels here. And with the Fang showing up as well, I was really, really worried. So I tried to go for something crazy, which is aggro Fang. I tried to switch the board, grab range on the Fangs, idea being my opponent will pick up Fangs as well, and maybe, just maybe, I can farm off of that, and then go for the second unit drop, wait for that, and hopefully pick up some fortresses to just, yeah, kind of switch the whole story around, right? My only other out, aside from those Phoenixes, was going to be maybe something like Arclight Worm, but I wasn't too sure that was going to work because my opponent already managed to pick up triple Fang, and Ignite Fang is a good way to deal with early sandworms. And so here, I decide to go for more Fang pickups. And we're just going to try and turn on the aggro button. Opponent sadly does go for the right pack of Phoenixes, as I sold the other one to repurpose that haste module. And we'll have to see how this goes. We do manage to pick up some arc lights there, and the Stormcaller should be DPSing somewhat safely from the back line. And let's see how this goes. Sledgehammers, though, very tanky still, even for these Fangs. The left side is looking slightly better, but looks like opponent has managed to get rid of most of my units. Stormcallers will hit true, do some decent damage, and at least we've managed to thin out the enemy army. But it looks like, yeah, another round there. Not going to go my way. Starting to take a little bit more damage as I go down to 3.2k hit points. Round number 4, heavy armor shows up. Both of us go for that. Opponent will use it onto the sledgehammers, which will be even harder to kill. And now starts to get into Mustang, which is always going to be the best response into someone who's trying to Fang carry. Even has, I think, enough to maybe grab range here, which would be detrimental. And so I decide to pick up Mech Rage on the Fangs first. And I'm hoping that round 5 will see some unit drops. Round 5, 6... or 7, it's guaranteed, but if I can manage to grab it early, maybe I can get into, or get the tempo that I need. Now we've got Mech Rage, trying to attack the left tower a little bit as well, and trying to play on the flank too. Now sold out of my Phoenixes because they're kind of just dying and not really doing anything. Opponent did manage to pick up the Mustangs and the range, and so let's see how this goes. Sledgehammers will be locked onto early. Left side, we managed to lock the arc, but I was quite surprised to find out that a level 1 arc light there beats my double tech Fangs. And so we don't manage to get into tower, which was what I was hoping for. At least the Stormcallers will finish the job. And Stormcallers on the right side still doing a good job here of trying to take out some of these Mustangs, but they will prevail. And looks like it's going to be another round loss for me. We'll just have to send this to round 5 and see if the unit drops can help me out. Right tower will fall. Stormcallers on the left side will be gobbled up. And so now I find myself down to 2.2k. In a bit of a pickle. Round 5, Ion Blast Lightning Storm show up. Could be a good thing to go for. Could have been an idea. But I think to myself, okay, I need to somehow buy myself some time here on round 5. And I think fortresses were still a little bit expensive to get into. And so I pick up the intensive training and decide to go for a Rhino play because my opponent really doesn't have that much damage on the board to deal with this. And with the intensive, I managed to grab a level 2 Rhino immediately. And then I'm basically just playing this as a placeholder for the unit drop, which I'm hoping to be Fortress or something else, but then I can maybe sell and get into Fortress. So you grab triple Rhino there, we have clicked the armor, and then I decide to go for a flank. However, opponent grabs a new Mustang, levels it up, and puts the haste module onto that, which is really bad news because these deal 103 damage now, which means I'll easily be able to take down the Rhino as it's spawning in. And so I don't quite get the pull that I was hoping for. Rhino on the right side, though, doing a decent job. We'll manage to get to tower. Maybe we can do something here with the debuff. Got a couple Fangs still alive. Mech raging away, trying to kill as many units as they possibly can. Grabbing some levels 2, which is not insignificant. But will we have enough left? I mean, the Fangs are starting to dwindle now, and it's basically only this level 2 Rhino with the heavy armor trying to move in, doing what it can. But as I lose my left tower, the Rhino loses a lot of hit points. Another tower goes down, another 9 seconds of debuff, and the Rhino will fall in the end as well. And I take more damage, another 1,000 down to 1,200. We do get some unit reinforcements. Sabretooth there shows up, picked up by Flower Fairy. It's probably like the best thing to go for. Wasp doesn't make sense in any of our boards, and well, Saber is good into Rhino. And so it looks like I'll have to go for the fortresses myself. I'm obviously looking to have barrier, and that's what I'm going to be opting for. Selling out of the Sabertooth drop. And trying to create some sort of front line here for my Fangs. Opponent immediately double tech, or goes for the double shot tech onto the Sabers. And puts one right in front of the flank. One here in front of this Rhino as well. Another one picked up in the middle. And the level 5 find itself in front of my level 2 Rhino with the heavy armor. I probably should be expecting this. But yeah, I don't think the Rhino here will be managing to get in. Unless somehow these Fangs manage to distract, but with the temp speed pickup, yeah, the Sabertooth will turn and take down that Rhino very swiftly indeed. Fortress will get some good locks. But the right tower is now leveled, and I'm not too sure if we'll manage to get that debuff. Meanwhile, the Sabertooth there with the double shot takes down my level 1 Fortress. Looks like all of my Fangs have gone down as well. And so sadly, round 6, it's a bit of a wash this game, but I go down 1-1. I didn't really know what to do in this game. I went for, well, a standard pack, obviously, knowing that I'm probably, well, I am simply a worse long-range player than Flower. But my idea was to go for something like Phoenix. It just so happened that Missile Spec is probably one of the worst matchups I could get into Stormcaller and wanting to build Phoenix. And then it just really didn't leave me too many options. I needed some DPS to deal with Sledgehammers, but I think Scorpion in Standard is not playable into Marksman. The drop also, I didn't really know what to do with. And it just kind of made it hard. Maybe Arclight Worm was the way to go, but it's going to be really hard to level up my Arclights when they're, well, getting stuck on enemy Sledgehammers that are leveled very early on. And then with the Fang drop as well, I really didn't think I'd manage to make that work. So I tried to go for a bit of a Hail Mary. Didn't work out, but the good thing is I managed to at least take one game. And so we have game number 3 to still try and make the upset happen. So let's go over there. All right, game number 3, Do or Die. And here are the packs. Now, of course, there is an Elite Specialist, which I probably would pick if I was on ladder, but in a tournament game, I'm not going to be picking that without any good chaff, right? I don't consider Hound to really be chaff. And so instead, I'll be vying for something else. Fortified Spec here with the Sledgehammers and Crawlers. And if you've seen my latest video, I have kind of been playing around with Link Sledgehammers on aggro. And so that is something I wanted to be trying out. Now, mind you, my opponent has a Spider Opener, which is pretty bad if you're into Sledgehammers, at least if you want to play them aggro. I think I should not be going for this here, but I end up doing so anyway. But in games that have followed, and perhaps in this one, I kind of figured out that this is typically just not a good matchup at all. And it feels really, really difficult to contest Spiders when they get, you know, really good chaff clear techs, and Sledgehammer kind of struggles to deal with loads of chaff in the same manner. Now, I will be going for my classic setup here, Sledgehammers, Fangs, one square in between the Sledgehammers and the Fangs, and playing for the right side. Seems like we'll be in a crossfire here as my opponent goes aggro on the left side. I went for the Sledgehammers because I wasn't really expecting him to go aggro per se. I mean, Fairy isn't necessarily known to be an aggressive player. We'll have to see how he decides to play this. Looks like he'll be getting the tower first, but I think that's a good thing for us as we've managed to pull some units and get rid of some of the chaff as the opponent picked up 2 more crawlers. He's a supply specialist, by the way, so we'll have that additional money available throughout the game. Now we managed to grab the tower, and looks like the crawlers at least will be dealt with. And most of my chaff are alive, not to mention all of my sledges are completely fine. I've got 1 crawler on the tower there, trying to get a debuff, but from the looks of it, we might just be able to take down the spider, and that's a pretty good first round, all things considered. I think I got fortunate here with the way the positioning played out, managing to pull some units, getting debuffed first, and yeah, not too shabby. Now, round number 2, improved Overlord here, I actually did consider for a bit, but I think it's a little too early. Improved Overlord will cost you 600 per Overlord, not to mention the unlock cost of 200. So if I pick it this early, I'm kind of showing my hand And it's a 100 cost card as well. So I didn't really see... I think it was too early, basically, to go for it. If it was a bit later, maybe I would pick it up, but the conclusion was that it just wasn't the right round to go for it. Opponent goes for a very quick skip, and I decide to skip in the end as well. Pick up a Phoenix, as that will help me kill some spiders, and big investment coming out here, immediately using the additional resources he has, right? He had 550, allowing him to go for 2 more spiders and a Fang on the right side now to defend the tower. I decide to level up my left tower, put a Fang kind of in the middle, trying to pull some units away from my tower as well. And then just hoping that some of these crawlers, well, won't be ending up on tower. That's going to be the round. We'll have to see how this goes. Obviously, my opponent really doesn't have too much in the way of anti-air. Only added 1 Fang pack, so if we can get or take that down, it might be another default win. Some crawlers will get to tower, but at level 2 it'll take a little bit longer to go down. Maybe, just maybe, we can kill this spider before we get debuffed. Looks like we will be able to. Perfect timing, and now our crawlers are aiming for the enemy towers. A debuff here would be wonderful. Of course, we'll win, but if I can keep some sledgehammers alive, grab some levels, that should be quite useful. We will be getting debuffed yet again as the crawlers end up at my right tower, but I think the sledgehammers should be able to recover, get rid of the crawlers, and that'll leave the phoenixes to clear up this phoenix. Doesn't seem like we'll be left with much though, maybe just the 1 sledgehammer, but another round win. We'll take it. Sledgehammers available to level up. Now, round number 3, Supply Enhancement shows up. I'm not the biggest fan of this, even though it is the first round it can show up. I was pretty sure my opponent would pick this, because I know that Fairy is a greedy player, but I decide to skip and just play for the econ game. Fairy does pick it up. So round 7 is when he'll start making 50 profit. And now opts to go for Mustang. I was quite surprised by this, but I guess it does deal with the Phoenixes, but I wouldn't consider it particularly good into Sledgehammer, per se. It's okay into Fang as well, but you don't really need Mustangs to deal with Fangs if you've got spiders on the board. Now here, I'm starting to kind of play on the flanks a bunch, trying to pull apart my opponent and delay his units, because these crawlers are all pullable, as you can see. There's nothing in front of my left tower, and I put some crawlers in front of the sledgehammers to kind of tank the enemy forces as they spawn in. I don't expect them to win, but the delay is really nice, and most of the damage on my tower really will be coming from crawlers. So again, it's another tactic to delay that debuff from happening, which should allow me to win the right side, hopefully. I did pick up another sledgehammer in the middle to stall even more, and then a level on our sledgehammer in the middle. And looks like everything worked out as planned. Right side winning convincingly, Phoenixes ready to level up, sledgehammers ready to level up as well. Crawlers did end up winning, but it took them a really long time, and as the tower goes down at a, well, basically useless timing for my opponent, it's going to be another good round, and we should be able to get our opponent down to sub 3k hit points entering round 4. And this time around, some sledgehammers will live as well. And we pick up a good round, sending our opponent down to 2700. Round 4, though, unit reinforcements. We hadn't gotten them yet, and double Scorpion for free there is really not what I was hoping for. I think playing into Scorpion sometimes is possible, but it definitely does prevent me from being able to get into something like the Link tech that I really like to use. And yeah, all of a sudden there is 4 Scorpions on the board by round 4. So any tempo that I might have had somewhat out the window here with that drop. I decided to go for the Phantom Rays instead, hoping that maybe I can click armor on them at some point. Wasn't too sure yet, but the deployments are decent. I do go for Mech Rage at this point, which I do because selling out of sledgehammers really isn't an option, I think. I already invested too much into them, and they should still be able to chaff clear somewhat okay-ish. even with the enemy Scorpions on board. And if I manage to position them in such a way that they're behind chaff, we should be okay. Phantoms will spawn in on the flanks, and, well, at least the top left here is delaying for a decent amount of time. Looks like a couple crawlers made it through, so my Phantoms are somewhat distracted. Phoenixes will do an okay job at locking onto everything, but yeah, I mean, 4 Scorpions on top of the Tarantulas is probably a bit too much in terms of tankiness for a lone Phoenix to deal with, and I don't trust Phantom Rays enough to be the main carry here. And so I have to start looking towards something else. Maybe I have to go for something like Overlord. Overlord Sledge is a pretty classic combination, and it used to be the main way to deal with Scorpions. It's a little bit less popular now because of how expensive Overlord is. And I say that, improved Overlord shows up again. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is basically guaranteed. If you see improved Overlord early in your game, and both of you decide to skip it, if another Overlord card shows up later, it'll again be improved Overlord, basically. You can't get mass-produced Overlord offered by skipping this card. It's locked in for the entire game. And so we get it offered again, and this time I will be picking it up, because I think, well, that seems like as good of an out as I'm going to be getting to deal with these Scorpions. And so yeah, here we go. It does cost me most of my resources, I will admit, having to unlock that and buy it for 600, but we managed to get our first Overlord on the board, and I do run some decent techs for it with the range and the overload. For those of you that don't know, the improved version of this unit has 20% bonus attack and hit points, but importantly, it also has 5 bonus splash range. And that's quite significant. Splash is one of the stronger techs in the game, and it allows this to chaff clear for itself decently well, especially when paired up with something like the Launcher Overload. And so while I wasn't too happy with round 4, I think round 5 I'm starting to think, maybe I'm in with a shot. Still, I'm pretty healthy, so let's see if we can make this work. Opponent goes for Phoenixes to try and deal with the Phantom Rays. I could have gone for armor here, but I didn't really want to invest into the Phantoms more. Instead, I'm just selling out of them. Opponent goes for double missile on the line there, trying to deal with the Phantom Ray that had leveled up. But it's gone. I sold it. I think the pull on the left side is still decent. Like, my opponent has a lot of resources up there that aren't doing too much. And right side isn't looking too bad either. Phoenixes with the level, able to take down a Scorpion there. And this Overlord is doing its best to deal with all of the remaining units. And if I can get rid of this Phoenix pack, maybe, just maybe, I can come out ahead. The splash will kill the Phoenixes. And now we'll get to see whether or not we can actually pull this off. Although I am quite low hit points, and with more Mustangs on the way, I actually think this won't be going too well for me. Managing to kill a good amount of them, but no cigar, and we do end up going down. Overlord manages to pick up a level, though, and here comes Tank Production Line as a pretty good item for my Giants. Keep in mind the sledgehammers that will spawn will also have mech rage, so that could be quite useful. Now, of course, we need another Overlord at this point, so I'm going to pick up my second one. And here I have a choice to make, which is I could sell a Phantom and pick up a third Overlord if I want to. I could also try and level and go for something like Launcher Overload. We do sell out of the Phantom on the flank, and that leaves us with 650. And what are we going to do with that is the question. Opponent now does have range on the Mustangs as well. Range on the Tarantulas too, to try and chaff clear a bit better. And I still think my situation here is rather precarious. As, well, my chaff clear is a little bit dodgy. I don't have Overload just yet. And Sledgehammers, if they get hit by the Scorpions, that will definitely hurt my chaff clear ability. So here I decide to go for Overload on the Overlords first. And I think I just picked up some chaff. Crawler here. on the front line to try and bait this double missile. And I do pick up the level on the Overlord. The extra tankiness should help, because I know my opponent doesn't have really high level anti-air units. And at 60k hit points, this isn't the easiest thing to take down. So this time around, we can actually see these sledgehammers are kind of fine, as the chaff is annoying the enemy scorpions. And we even managed to take out a scorpion there on the left, right side, soon to follow. And sledgehammers will even be taking down the enemy spider there. And you can see the ones that are spawning in are quite helpful at dealing with some of the smaller units here. Tower will go down for both of us. It looks like it hasn't impacted me all that much, and well, with the Overlord still being near full HP, we might be able to take this round some way, somehow. Oh, look at that splash. I don't even run the splash tech, which would make this even better, but managing to kill 2 spiders with 1 shot there. Very satisfying. And now round number 7, we get more free units offered. Now Vulcan here is probably the best sell. Well, it just is. Opponent does pick that up. Hound could be an idea as well. I know my opponent has scorpions, but it's just a lot of deployments, and it might just be annoying for my opponent to kill. I was also still somewhat concerned about my chaff gear situation, so opting to go for Hound here wouldn't be the worst idea. Other 2 units didn't seem that useful to me, so it's between either selling the Vulcan and investing more into my boats, or going for the Hounds, and that is going to be the pickup. Now I'm utilizing or positioning them in such a way that they will stall the left side as much as possible. I'm also considering clicking Incendiary Bomb here at some point and just deal with all of the crawlers that are moving in, because there's a lot of crawlers on the left side, and if I can get rid of those efficiently, there really isn't too much to deal with on the right side for my Overlords. I do go for the oil, trying to burn some of those enemy units, and looks like my opponent does respect it. I mean, it makes sense. Into the Vulcan drop, you usually have to worry a little bit about the potential oil play. And I do go for more Overlords. No range picked up just yet. Oil will get moved slightly, but won't be landing yet. And looks like I don't go for the Incendiary. Trying to make the best use, or the most use, out of that spell. Going for 1 round slow, and the next turn I could set it on fire if I want to. Right side, though, moving in very, very quick indeed. And with the Overlords now locking onto that Melter that the opponent picked up, it isn't too long for this world. Phoenixes will fall too. We get the tower debuff. Looks like our left tower will be soon to follow, though. 7 seconds of debuff coming our way. And the question is, how much can we do against these Melters? They do have the range. Ooh, we're gonna need these sledgehammers to tank for us. Looks like that won't be the case, and so the Melters will prevail. Pretty big round 2 with the Scorpion and 2 spiders left alive. I'm gonna take a boatload of damage, pun intended, as I go down to 1800 hit points. Heavy armor now shows up, and both of us do decide to go for that. I think it's useful on an improved Overlord. If you manage to get rid of the Phoenixes, or the Melting Points, sorry, it'll be useful against the Phoenixes and the Mustangs at least. And so now I go for the second tech that I needed, which is the range. That way they'll definitely stay behind the sledgehammers and just be a little bit safer altogether. I do go for the Incendiary Bombs on the Hounds as well, trying to light some of this on fire, make sure that the left side partially or entirely burns. Also adding a Hound there. Oh well, added this Hound there from the pack, so we do have a little bit of fire on the right side, but not too sure if this is worth keeping, because I will be running through that myself. Picking up some levels on the Overlords here as well. We've got a level 3 now. If that locks onto this level 1 Melter, it'll be gone in 1 salvo easily. Also adding some more crawlers to the flank, as my opponent is quite happy to missile a bunch of my units from the looks of it. And the reason I'm doing this is just to make sure that this Scorpion here doesn't get to shoot at my sledgehammers immediately. And you can see it is, even though it's shot at the pack there, right? 2 sledgehammers live, and they're annoying his units for quite some time. Meanwhile, we're breaking in. Overlords are still alive. And it seems the fire did a decent job. Somehow didn't light this on fire. I was quite surprised about that, but looks like we'll be doing okay-ish. Will our left tower go down is the question. Hopefully we can kill this melter before that happens. Missile will get baited as well, and we do take down the melter just in time. That's lovely. And I don't think this level 3 boat can go down, even with the amount of crawlers remaining. We'll grab a tower ourselves, and now we'll be heading over to the crawlers that are still alive. Take those down for a round win, sending our opponent down to 1250 hit points. This is starting to look quite promising. Now we get a bunch of unit reinforcements. Could go for a cell if I want to, but steel balls didn't look too bad to me. Quite scary for my opponent to deal with on the left side, where he doesn't have a scorpion and might be able to take down this melting point for me, so I will be opting to use those. Oil gets used by my opponent now, trying to set on fire some of the chaff that's annoying his units. And I'll actually be selling out of a hound here, I think, on the right side, because as I mentioned, I did see that I was burning some of my own stuff. And of course, I know my opponent hasn't clicked oil yet, so it didn't seem like this hound was adding too much, and I will be getting rid of it. Level 3 tower now from my opponent, and I'm adding more boats on the left side, as well as another sledge to try and keep this melting point occupied. Right side has been looking really, really good to me, so I wasn't too worried about it. Steel balls kind of being put back, and then another sledgehammer pack on the left side. I'm really trying to invest a bit more there on the side that's been getting my tower, and just trusting that the right side will at least be able to go even, considering how well that went. Opponent now picking up more Mustangs and going for a missile interceptor tech. Now previously this should be quite useful, but they did reduce the efficiency of it, and they also increased the hit points of Overlord missiles, so we'll have to see how well this works. Seems like some shots are getting through here, as we are hitting this Scorpion. And definitely some of the missiles there are getting blocked, but as the Mustangs are trying to shoot at the missiles, obviously they're also not shooting at the sledgehammers, which are just managing to get through, as you can see. So the melting point is still occupied. Left side, things are going well, as we managed to take down that level 3 melting point with the heavy armor. And with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boats left alive, multiply that by 400. 2k damage, that is simply going to be game as the improved Overlords take it, and I managed to punch my ticket to the Serpentine Cup finals on finals day. I was very happy with the result of this. I wasn't expecting it, I will admit. I think Ferry is, well, undeniably a better player than me, as his ladder record will show. But I managed to make some things work here, right? Going for some unconventional plays. I got fortunate with the improved Wasp card, but then again, I think having played that comp so much allows me to actually make that happen. There's practically nobody else in Heimamar that runs those techs, but if you do, you can sometimes get away with this. And then, of course, game 2 was a bit of a wash. I really didn't know what to do in that game. It just felt very, very difficult for me to play with how the tempo went in the early game. So I tried something and it didn't work, but that's a nice thing when you're up a game. And then this game was looking rough for a bit when the Scorpions showed up, but we got, well, somewhat fortunate by, well, identifying Overlord as a potential out, and it worked really, really well. So yeah, we managed to get to the finals. I'll probably upload that series later on my channel as well, which was against Tungdil, but hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like. Let me know down below what you thought of these comps. Have you tried them? Did I get really lucky? Or did I make good use out of the things or the cards that were offered to me? Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please do consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.